not true.
Never happened.
100% not true.
Never happened. There's still time. Newhart was not new, but did it have heart?
Ooh. Newhart felt like a show from before 1983.
Newhart is so wholesome, it should be an NSFW sort of situation, in my opinion.
Maybe don't know what NSFW really stands for, because if
Not
I
safe
do,
for
that's
work.
the opposite of wholesome.
It's the opposite of wholesome. It's so wholesome it did a 180.
Nice.
It is the most wholesome thing ever.
I'm getting more confused by the second. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fallingtower's Watch the First podcast, the podcast in which we watch the first episode of a series so that you don't have to.
You still can.
I gave you the perfect window.
I saw that.
I usually
that was great.
forget.
The pause was perfect.
Oh, man alive. We are pros. Okay. Today, we are reviewing Newhart. Muhammad, I thought the same thing. Are we sure this is the 80s? Anyway,
Yeah, right.
It's Newhart. It's from 1983, I think, or 82, something like that.
83.
We have our very special guest here today, costume designer, cosplayer, content creator, and our resident genius. It's Jackie Goehner. Hello, Jackie.
Hello. I dressed for the occasion, I dressed up. I put clothes
I love
on.
you, Paul.
Put a shirt on and
am.
some shoes.
Exactly. Well, I don't know about shoes, but yeah.
It's like the Sistine Chapel thing, except God in this case is a dog.
Yeah. No, it's
Like,
a
or a
kitty.
cat, really.
Or cat,
I was
yeah.
going to say cat. Cat's got the smaller
I thought
thing.
kitty,
But I don't
too.
know, it could be a small dog.
Have you ever done that where you get like a little cat's paw and you like poke in the middle and it like stretches out? They go, all right.
Oh yeah, Peach.
Really
I do
cute.
that all the time. She'll have her little paws over the edge, and then I'll just tickle her little pads, and she's just like blooming. They're so adorable.
Well, speaking of paws. All right. So also all the way from Duke University to here to the universe, it's Dr. Muhammad Noor.
Hello, always a pleasure to be on Falling Towers. Watch the first of things.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. I think,
Ryan.
oh, by the way, everybody, this is 80s sitcom month. 80s sitcom month. So if you'd like us to review an 80s sitcom, doesn't have to be all in the 80s. It could be 75 to 82 or 1989 to 1993. As long as it was in the 80s at some point, we will watch it and review it as long as you suggest it. Maybe. Yeah.
The 80s hair.
I'm gonna try to wear an 80s shirt for every one of these. So wish me luck on that endeavor. All right.
Like we're gonna start seeing like white shirts that are like hand drawn in Sharpie, like 80s Full House or 80s The Wonder Years. Yeah, I can't wait. I think you should do that.
I would love to do The Wonder Years. All right. Everybody, WTF in the comments below. Make your suggestions. Wonder Years. Hey.
Specify the 80s one, because there's also the new Wonder Years, too.
Right. Good point.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
All right. And please make sure you like this video. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. If you're listening in, give us a 5-star rating, please, and a pleasant review, something we could read to our family or something, provided they like us. Let's just get into this. Dr. Noor, where do we go from here?
We're in a predicament, meaning that we have to predict what each of us thought when we watched the show without giving away what we thought.
All right. I like that. So Dr. Noor and I have known each other for a few years pretty well. Jackie and I have known each other for 10 years and 1 month. So that's
10 years and
121 months, you guys. Can you believe it? That's
wild.
Almost 11 squared.
11 squared.
Wow. Jinx,
Almost.
Muhammad.
We're getting there.
Nerds.
Soon.
I love it. All right.
Let's try for 12 squared.
144. That's gross. Thank you.
I crossed the line there. I'm sorry.
So anyway, the point is, Muhammad and Jackie know each other a fair bit, as the French say, kind of like rare bit, but I think that's Welsh.
Yeah.
So we're going to make our predictions. Dr. Noor, I predict that you enjoyed this. I predict that you remember seeing some of these episodes when you were a lad. not the youngest lad, but certainly younger than you are today. And I think you overall enjoyed it. And I think you'll be fairly warm on it. Jackie, I think you're going to be like, hey, what is this crap? But I think you'll also be like, but hey, you know, it was okay. I think you're going to find it to be okay. That's my prediction. What do you predict, Mohammed?
So for Jackie, I'm going to predict a little bit more positively. I think you would have been like, this is never a show I would have watched on my own, but it's okay. It was pretty good. I'd go maybe even from the okay to the pretty good. Brian, I think you were probably like, what the hell am I watching? I don't think you liked it, is my guess. I think you would be like, what is this? My guess is I don't think you hated it, but I think it's going to be below the 5 line. That's my prediction.
What do you think, Jackie?
Let's see here. Ryan, I think, well, for both of you grew up with this show. Like you were youngish children, I'm assuming, when the Bob Newhart show came into fruition. So I'm going to put you both together on this one and say it was a nostalgic, lovely walk down memory lane sort of thing for you, and that you both enjoyed it. For the context of like, oh, well, this is, this reminds me of my childhood or whatever.
Oh, sounds nice.
Both of you, though. You both did.
All right, everybody, make your predictions now. Do you think I liked it? Do you think it was a walk down memory lane for myself and Dr. Noor? Do you think Mohammed loved it or hated it? Do you think Jackie was like, how much longer is this thing? Or do you think she was like, hey, this is pretty pleasant. I can't wait to watch more episodes. Let us know either in the comments below or in the live chat. Make your predictions now. While you're doing that, no rush. Dr. Noor is going to buy us all a little bit of time by telling us what this show is even like Italy a boot.
All right, well, it'd be actually one correction. I just want to make sure in case anybody's watching. We're doing Newhart, not the Bob Newhart show. There's another show called the Bob Newhart show.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Just want to make sure people understand.
That was me. That was my bad.
All good. So, author Dick Loudon and his wife Joanna decide to buy the rather broken old Stratford Inn in Connecticut, dating back to 1774. They hire a somewhat incompetent handyman and a more competent maid from a rich family as families begin to start staying at the inn. The highlight is when the Daughters of the War for Independence ask to stay at the inn to learn about their ancestors who stayed there in 1775. Unfortunately, Dick discovers that the inn was a brothel back then. In the episode climax, no pun intended, he spins the importance of the inn's role in helping with the Revolutionary War and makes the Daughters of the War for Independence proud of their connection.
Wow, everybody. See? Now we're going to move forward. That was very nice. Mohammed is getting his punches ready, so look out because they are coming any second now. What's next, Dr. Noor?
Next, we have the section I like to call Expect Kitchen, where we spend a little bit of time on what we expected before we saw the show and a lot more time on what we actually watched when we actually, what we got when we saw the show. Or as Ryan likes to say very eloquently, we like to compare and contrast what we expected and what we actually got.
Quick correction. I've never said anything eloquently.
That's not true.
Never happened.
100% not true.
Never happened. There's still time. All right. Let's do that then. Dr. Noor, before you watch this first episode of Newhart, what did you expect, if anything?
Yeah. So I think y'all were correct. I had actually seen this show before. I watched it, I think, almost perfectly as Ryan described it. I watched it, not like every episode, certainly not regularly, but I did see it back when it was coming out. And it was something I remember being like, this is good. It wasn't the show I would ever seek out. The one thing which I remember, and this comes back to the comment I made about the Bob Newhart show, the thing I remember the most about this show was the finale, the series finale. It actually had one of the most unique series finales ever. So this is 1980s. You might remember in the 1980s, Dallas had this classic thing that everybody talked about, where there was a whole season that they decided was just a dream. And they basically just undid everything from that season. But you remember this, Ryan?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I remember the theme song. I never watched the show, but I remember the theme song. It was like, it's such a cool theme song. Anyway, never saw the show.
Totally. So what this one did, it was fascinating. In the series finale, which I guess is a spoiler, but whatever. I remember seeing the series finale at the very end. Newhart woke up and he was back in the Bob Newhart show. So the entire series was a dream of him from the previous series.
Interesting.
That was classic.
I normally hate those kind of cop-outs, but I do like that. It's like, oh, this is just a dream from another show. That's okay. That's unique, and I like that.
Yeah,
that had a little bit more effort than undoing everything
clever.
that she did prior. So yeah,
that's a perfect segue. Jackie, before you watch this first episode of Newhart, entitled, by the way, In the Beginning, what did you expect, if anything?
I love Bob Newhart. It's funny because like the most vivid memory I have of Bob Newhart was actually from the movie Elf, but I remember him prior to that from this show. I don't remember watching the show, but I know I have because I recognize the set. And granted, like, sets way back in the 80s, they kind of would repurpose them for other shows. Like it would be the exact same setup, just, different color scheme and whatnot. But I do remember this one specifically. So I was kind of expecting something super duper wholesome, something straight out of the 80s, very, family friendly, and maybe even a little cheesy. So.
All right. Interesting. Well, I'm going to tell all y'all what I expected, if anything. Nothing. Never heard of it. I knew I'd heard of Bob Newhart. I'd forgotten he was an Elf, one of the best movies ever, surprisingly. I remember watching Elf and not thinking I was going to like it, but it was actually really good. And he was great in that. And I knew that he had a show, but I thought it was like a Conan O'Brien kind of show until just now when I'm finding out it was more like a sketch comedy kind of thing. It seems like an SNL. He was my regular at a restaurant I used to work at in Westwood, and he would always order an Amstel Light, and he and his wife were very pleasant. He would always only drink half the Amstel Light, and he was just a good guy who tipped well, and his wife was wonderful, and they would always come by and see me. And I didn't have the heart to tell him that I've never seen any of his stuff. But I was always like, oh, people were like, it's Bob Newhart. I'm like, I think I've heard that name. So that's the extent of
sex
it.
Icon, Bob Newhart.
Tell me about it. Man, I wanted to claw up my screen. But that's what we expected. What did we actually get, Dr. Noor?
So this show also at the time had a bit of a reputation of being kind of an old person show. Like this is the kind of show that like the above 60 crowd would watch a lot. Kind of like Matlock and other shows like that too. It kind of lived up to that. It was light but consistent humor. That's the way I would call it. Light but consistent humor. Where like there were very rare like total laugh out loud moments, but it was consistent. It was just kind of funny moving along. It was
kind of like Nilla wafers. That's what I'm picturing.
Yeah, that's a good
Nilla wafers,
Yeah, they're light and consistent. Sorry, Mohammed.
No, you're good. One surprise to me was I don't know if he was doing this intentionally about it, but it felt like Bob was slightly breaking the fourth wall because you could see him kind of chuckling periodically, like during the delivery, and like, oh, like you like this line, I guess, or something like that. So, but I actually found that I didn't find it distracting. I actually just found it charming. I thought that was like, oh, he likes this too. I'm enjoying it as well. I did not like the laugh track. Let me say that up front. The laugh track was loud. Like, oh my God, turn that down quite a bit. It came across as dated. You could tell this is an older show, even more so than it seemed. I mean, we've done some shows from the 80s before. This felt older. It felt like a lot older. Maybe it's the target audience would have been the people who were watching like the Brady Bunch when it was live or something too. But I enjoyed it. It was light. There was some reminiscence. So actually, the characters I liked the most that I remembered from the show were not in this episode. But overall, good.
Wow. Who would have known that? Jackie, what did you actually get?
I would have say exactly what Mohammed said. Just, it was very very lighthearted, consistent humor. It did feel like more for an older audience. I was expecting something to be a bit more family, like not younger audience necessarily, like, oh, like my age or whatever, but like for the families and whatnot. And it even, like, to agree with Mohammed also, it felt like it was shot like I don't know, like the quality was like older, like from this, like maybe like the very early 80s or late 70s, like those shows, how they were shot. Um, yeah. Oh my God, that the laugh track was really, really loud. It was all to the point where it was distracting for me sometimes. Which, and I don't like laugh tracks for a lot of shows, and unfortunately, you got laugh tracks throughout the 80s. Like you can't escape that. No, I don't know a single well, there's probably a couple shows that didn't use laugh tracks, but I got pretty much exactly what I was expecting. It was like it was nice, it was lighthearted, it was very wholesome. Um and there were moments where it was just really, really charming, very quintessential to the 80s.
Well, now I'll tell all of y'all what I got because I know you're dying for it. You know, my very first impression, Muhammad, same, was right when I first saw it. I was like, "Are we sure this is the '80s?" Like, I thought maybe it ended in '82 when I first saw. I was like, "This looks like '77, '76," and right when they walked in, I was like, "I can smell the dust on that set," and I don't mean like the production design fake dust. I mean, like that's a dusty old set that we've all been on before. That anybody that works in LA, you've been on these sets that have, and the floors were perfect, which also made it look like a set. It was like the whole place is all dirty and grimy, but the floors are like spick and span clean because it's a safety hazard otherwise. I don't know why I was distracted by all that stuff, but in a nutshell, I I liked it more than I thought I would, and I think I liked it more than it deserved, just because it was it was easy. It was kind of charming. Feels like something that you could just kind of put on in the background when you're like cooking something, So maybe that's an old person kind of thing. They're like, "Oh, I just like to have it on while I'm ironing. I don't really need to pay attention. I just like that Bob, he's funny." You know, it was okay. It was charming. It was, I don't know. Let's just get into this because I'm not 100% sure how I felt about it, but it was overall somehow weirdly positive. Who is your favorite character,
That's
Dr.
the
Noah?
power of Bob Newhart.
Is it? Is that what it is? Is that because
That's what makes him so spicy.
He's a nice guy.
He's a great guy. Anyway, sorry.
No, Dr. Noah, did you have a favorite character though? Oh, well, then I was going to say, who are those characters that you loved later? But like,
yeah, we can come back to that. It was I can't remember the main guy. There were three brothers, and two of them were named Daryl. I can't remember who the first guy was. He'd be like, "Hi, I'm so and so. This is my brother Daryl. This is my other brother Daryl." I always thought they were very funny. And the two brothers Daryl never spoke until the finale, till the series finale. They never said a word otherwise. But anyway, for this one, I don't know. It would either be Bob's character Dick or George. George was just so like wonderfully incompetent that I found him kind of funny. It was pushing it though. It was one of those like it was just the edge of being annoying. So that's why I was like, So I think on balance, I'd have to say Bob's character Dick.
What about you, Jackie? Was Dick your favorite, or was it? Who were the other people?
I would say Dick. Yeah, no, Dick was probably my favorite. He was also, yeah, you would think Joanna, but Joanna was just kind of more. She was a little too background for me for a female lead. But that's also very kind of typical of the 80s, like, the wife or the mom kind of takes a step back behind the patriarch dad. So, but no, like Dick he was funny. He was, kind of took charge of everything. I cannot remember her name.
Leslie?
Leslie, the girl. The rich girl who is taking on a summer job or taking on a job to pay for schooling and all that fun stuff. I thought she was super sweet and charming. I don't know what happens after that, like after this episode between her and the guy, the
Kirk.
tall, handsome, but kind of a skeezy business guy. What's his name? Anyway,
Kirk.
It sounded like he said
I
his
need to
name
write
was
down
Kurt.
everybody's names.
It sounded
I'll
like he
remember
said
them.
his name was Kurt Cobain. I had to listen to it 3 times. It's Kurt Cobain.
Oh, was it? I thought it was Devane.
No, Kurt Cobain.
Oh, okay.
I had to look it up because I was like, he's saying Kurt Cobain.
And this was like, wasn't this like before?
Well before.
Okay. I like. Anyway, I mean, he was alive. He was born then. He was definitely. Anyway, yeah, no, I'm curious about like her story arc and whatnot, but that's kind of what draws women my age and or younger. Like, oh, here's a younger thing that you can imprint yourself on. Just bland enough, but has little crumbs to feed off of.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell y'all. I don't know who my favorite was. I mean, I guess Dick, because Bob seems relatively charming, and he kind of gave himself like the best lines. Everybody else is kind of like the weird character or the supporting character, and he's the guy that's just like, boy, that's weird, or I'll just bet, or whatever, that kind of thing is. That's why I do think that the wife they're going to have to build that character a little more, and I trust that they do, because otherwise you have 2 straight men. She's kind of plays the straight person, but his role is to play the straight person that, so I'm assuming something's going to give there as time progresses. But I guess it was Bob. Nobody really jumped out. The tall guy, George, he's every show back then needed the dumb character, right? The dumb guy that's likable and innocent. And, I'm like, okay, I guess he plays it fine.
Gomer Pyle.
Yeah. I was going to say he had a very, what's his name from Seinfeld? Oh,
Kramer?
Kramer. He had a very Kramer, like not a very Kramer, but like had Kramer-esque vibes about him.
I was thinking
a little bit more physical humor than,
Yeah. Who am I picturing? There's a guy, I think he was like in Wings or Coach. It's kind of like a big lug kind of guy. You know what I mean?
Like the blonde hair, right?
Yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah. Thomas Hayden Church. Is that? I don't know. Anyway, he kind of and he also kind of reminded me just of Wilson from Home Improvement.
Oh, yeah.
Just that part. Anyway, Muhammad, can you tell us the moments that made you laugh so that the rest of us can say, oh, I guess it was funny then?
Yeah. I think the 2 biggest laughs, I had a lot of, like I said, there were a lot of sort of low, those kinds of things. The 2 biggest was when Leslie came in and talked about all her getting a degree in, I forget what it was, comparative something or another from Dartmouth, and doing this and doing that. And Bob just like flatly looked at her and said, basically what we're looking for in a maid. that was a great one.
My number 1 as well. And it was, and I thought about it. I was like, is it funny on the line or how he delivers it? It was kind of both. He delivered it very well. He said, that's basically what we're looking for.
Yeah. That was probably my favorite too. At the very end, when after he had done this pitch about how it was really important that this was a brothel and stuff like that, and he came back and was talking to his wife, and she said, well, you certainly turned the trick, and he covered her mouth real quick. Thought that was funny too. There were a lot of much more low level ones too, like the title of his book, or sign right here, put your John Hancock right there under John Hancock's one, things like that. There were a lot of sort of the low level ones, but they didn't make me like laugh out audibly or anything like that. But again, consistent low humor.
Jackie, did you have some moments that made you laugh very loudly?
Those 2 exact moments, actually, when she's clearly overqualified, and he's like, yeah, okay, great, you're exactly what we're looking for a maid. And then when Joanna comes in and says, wow, you certainly turned the trick, then he covers her mouth. Yeah. Those were my 2 laugh out loud moments. there were lots of like little clips here and there. Yeah, the John Hancock one. There was one where he's on the phone with their very first guests, and they're talking about how, like, hey, it's really, really cold in here. It's he goes back and forth and with these guests, like, because they keep complaining about the room, like the room's missing a window, it's missing anything to heat up the room, and it just keeps going back and forth. And then finally, he just takes the phone and takes it off the ringer.
That's
and
literally my
it.
other
Like,
aha moment was when I had phone
Yeah.
off hook.
Me too. That's
Yeah.
that's my other one. Now I'm all out. And then anybody
dang
born
it. I
after
took 'em all.
2000 is going to be like, I don't get it. You're like, see, when you do that, it's like do not disturb. Okay.
I'm sorry, I interrupted.
There were a couple first impressions that I had that I thought were noteworthy. Number one was it starts off with the theme song, the little theme, and it was so pleasant. The music was pleasant and the intro was pleasant. I was like, oh, this feels like a comfortable old shoe, or like some warm cocoa or oatmeal on a rainy day. It was nice. I could see this as being like a comfort food to somebody. And when they mentioned Stratford Inn, we're buying this Stratford Inn that's 200 years old, and we're going to, renovate it and run it or whatever. I was like, that's such a great idea. That seems like the perfect idea for a sitcom, because you have people come in and out, right? So it's like the episode of the week is just the newlywed couple, or the guys with the bratty son, or the people with the 4 dogs that bark all night, whatever it is. Yeah. It's like that, so you could see the formula. It felt very charming. So I just kind of thought that was, it's probably been done before, but maybe not before 1982. I don't know. But I thought the premise was maybe the best part of the show, and just that opening theme was really nice. Is what I thought.
Nice.
You guys are like, that's it? Yeah, that's it.
We've covered all my notes.
All gone. No more words.
Yeah. You guys.
What it actually? What this show actually reminds me of. But it was predecessor to this other show. Remember how the Golden Girls, when Dorothy left, and then they revamped the show like shortly after, and
Golden
they
Palace.
had just bought this home. Yes, Golden Palace.
I put that in my notes when at that beginning. I was like, wow, this is a great idea, just like Golden Palace. You're right. I totally agree.
Yeah, where they bought the hotel and it's got a lot of problems and they got to fix it up, and they run into all these things. So it's like, wonder if they picked that idea up from the Newhart show.
Right,
could be. Dr. Nor, what do you think? Did they? Because what was that? Probably 90s for Golden Palace.
I think so.
It was like 89, 90.
And this ran 8 seasons starting in 83. So I mean, easily.
Wow.
There's a lot of Newhart out there.
So this show
went
to like 1990.
I didn't put the year, but I put in my note 8 seasons.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah.
I can't imagine this show fitting in the 90s.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
They're walking in with their flannel, they're all...
Well, that was one of the comments in that end scene of the series when he's talking to his wife from the Bob Newhart show. He's like, I was married to somebody, she wore a lot of sweaters. That was one of his comments.
It's funny. So unlike y'all, I didn't really care for the Daughters of the Whatever War thing, and I felt like that was kind of the weaker part of the show. I don't know. But then you got to put in the context of the 80s, so I had to kind of say, okay, to me, it kind of makes me roll my eyes a little bit, but I'm like, okay, but in 1982, maybe that was like, whoa, edgy and innovative. Yeah. So, I try not to judge things, based on 40 years later. But yeah, I was like, I like the charm of the show the most. And yeah, when Bob was talking on the phone to the guy, he's like, oh, no, you're not a pest. You're not being a pest because you don't have a window.
Off the hook. But so about the Daughters from the Revolution thing. I mean, that was the one plot in the show. I mean, everything else was basically just set up. That was the one actual plot thing. Because if they hadn't had that, it would have been just like nothing happened. They bought the hotel and just met people.
They needed that quick and easy conflict that doesn't take up the entire premise of the introduction show, but still needed to give a taste of what to expect in future episodes. It can't just always be built up. So it was like I enjoyed it as a quick and easy, like, hey, like it was substantial. Like, oh, we found out our relatives, our ancestors lived here or stayed here. We'd like to know a little bit more about them. And he's put into an awkward situation. Like that's in itself is a bit, rather than an actual plot for an episode. So it makes sense for it to be there, in my opinion. And even for the time, like it was kind of like for the age group that it was targeting, it is grabby. So I thought it was fun and appropriate.
So were those guys 200 years ago. Am I right? I didn't know. I'd never heard the term cat house before, so I learned something.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
I knew that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I knew that. Well, I also costume design and whatnot. So I have one of my specialties is making like lingerie, undergarments, things like that. So yeah, cat house would make sense for me to kind of know a little bit about that.
Yeah. I mean, we could figure out what it is immediately. We go, oh, I bet I know what a cat house means. That's where they, whatever.
Put all the cats in.
Muhammad, I wanted to ask you though, was this first episode indicative of what future episodes were like?
You know, besides the finale, I actually don't remember an individual episode plot. I mean, I remember watching it, but I don't remember like what was happening in an individual episode. So I honestly can't say. It's too far back for me.
Fever dream.
Yeah.
Blast. I also want to point out.
It was in the final episode.
It was, exactly.
It was.
Their last, and the Kurt Cobain guy, the habitual liar, didn't quite work for me. I felt like they were still feeling out how to make that character work.
Yep. And
they weren't quite there yet. Whether the writing is going to change to the actor or the actor is going to get more comfortable. Something, they weren't quite there. Everybody else, they kind of had them figured out. And we know the kind of character that this guy's going to be, but he wasn't quite there yet. And I feel like that's just going to take probably a full season of figuring things out. But I was rooting for him. I was like, come on, be funny. I know you want to.
I don't remember him at all. It's possible he wasn't even in the show after a while, or maybe he wasn't. I've just completely forgotten him. Yeah,
that happens all the time. Actually, they'll toss in a feeler, and if they don't work out, they write them out, or they just who was it? It was a '90s show. Actually, it was a Step by Step. They had no. Although that did happen, they had
My Two Dads.
My Two Dads.
I don't know.
But it was Step by Step. They had each side of the family had 3 siblings, and on I can't remember which side it was. I think it was the guy Patrick Duffy's side. He had a youngest son, and you just never saw him. And then they just never brought him back. You're like, what's going on with that kid? It was like a little 8-year-old boy. Yeah. I could be wrong.
Never addressed
maybe I just didn't notice it. Yeah. But yeah. But Golden Girls too.
They had
pilot episode.
In the final
there's
episode.
A character that was introduced, and they cut him out entirely after the pilot episode.
Right. We covered that episode actually on Watch the First, and I didn't realize that until we saw that. I was like, who's that? I don't remember him. And then come to find out, he was just in that first episode and nothing. And I could see how it kind of worked, kind of didn't. I mean, the 4 ladies worked amazingly well from the word go. So maybe it was just a case of they thought they just didn't need that extra character. Yeah. But man, we could talk about that another time. Everybody go check out our review of Golden Girls, boy, how long ago was that? I don't remember, but
that was a ways back.
Yeah, we had it was myself, Michael Kenyon Rosenberg, Rico E. Anderson, and Darth Shuey. And where was it? Quick. No, that's My Little Pony. We also did My Little Pony together. Anyway, just do a search for Golden Girls and you'll find it. And let's just say that it may or may not have gotten the highest marks we've ever given for a first episode. There it is. WTF episode number 42. Wow. Quite possibly the highest marks we've ever gotten. Top 2, I think.
What number is this?
This one is it's 189. I'm getting ahead of myself. Episode 189. It wasn't Step by Step with Suzanne Summers. Wasn't she the other one?
That was with Suzanne Summers and Patrick Duffy. Wow. Watched that like a lot. I watched every like 90s sitcom. I watched a lot of 80s sitcom too. So
all right, we're gonna have a 90s sitcom month then. Cheers, Friends, Seinfeld, Step by Step. Right. It straddled both. So
yeah.
Oh wait, we already did Cheers. That's right. For 80s sitcom month, we already did Cheers.
You can only review the 90s part.
That's right.
That was
episode of the 90s.
Episode 119 with Lila Shacker. Did Cheers. That was a fun one. All right. Anyway, the point is, it's time to talk about you, Jackie Goehner. So here's the question. As you may or may not be aware, Halloween just passed.
Good.
How did that work out for you? Anything special? Did you get any bounce in business, or same as usual?
Kind of same as usual. It was a little slow this year, but I like always within like the last 4 or 5 days of Halloween or Halloween weekend, I would get the most amount of inquiries. And because I had such a severely busy convention season where I was making commission, like I was making costumes for other people constantly for cosplayers and whatnot from like March to October, and 2 wedding dresses too on top of that. So it's like I was too busy to like really care to really get into the Halloween season of making a bunch of costumes for other people. So I kind of took a step back here and did more events than anything. Like I judged a costume contest at the Cat Cafe Lounge, and that's actually a literally like a cafe lounge that you can hang out with cats who are adoptable. So recommend going to them. CatCafeLounge.com.
So you could come home with a cat and a
you
coffee.
can come home with a cat. Yeah, you can adopt one right then and there if you want to. Yeah, no, they're great. So did a costume contest for them. That was a lot of fun. I was a princess, if anyone was wondering. I was a total. Haven't been a princess in a long time. And let's see, I just a bunch of like Halloween parties. Did some hosting.
Was that the image you sent
there.
us?
Which one? Oh, the one where I'm wearing the hat. Yes.
Yes.
That wasn't at the Cat Cafe Lounge. I wasn't a princess in that one. I was a witch.
Look at that.
Yeah,
amazing.
there I am.
And you made that yourself?
I'm all sultry. Yeah. Well, the hat is a hat that I made for my Lisa from Genshin Impact. Mm-hmm. I made that entire costume. I was exhausted after that costume. And then like right around that time, all like the really nice quality, like ones that you can purchase from Amazon were around. I'm like, why do I bother? I could have just like bought one and then wore it, and then I would have been Lisa. I love Lisa. But I wore that as my witch hat, and I had like a kind of a 1940s, 30s looking with the bishop sleeves, like plunge, like it was like a bodysuit, and I wore like a high waist skirt, and so like the whole idea wasn't supposed to be like sultry or anything. It was supposed to be you know how like there's boss bitch, so boss witch. I was trying to look like someone's boss. but like did not look like a boss, as it were. It looked too glamorous.
I could see
In
a
that
boss
lighting, I
looking
did.
like that. Sure.
Yeah, I guess so.
Look at
But
that.
you can tell that it was a witch. Oh, you can't tell it's a witch's hat. I just look like I have a big ass hat on, and
A sun
that's
hat.
great. Yes, that's what it looks like. Yeah.
You mentioned
Wearing makeup and everything.
you mentioned you get a lot of inquiries around Halloween often. Can you explain like how the cosplay business works? I think a lot of people don't know what that means.
Oh, for cosplay.
Yeah.
So cosplay is like it's costume play. You're wearing a costume for fun of a character that you love or identify with. And typically people wear costumes at conventions like comic book conventions, anime conventions, gaming conventions, pop culture conventions, anywhere where geek, nerd, gaming, anime, comic book culture is all appreciated and celebrated even. So I've been doing it for over 20 years. That's like
Right.
a
You
couple
started
decades.
when you were 3, if I remember correctly,
I
right?
know, they're very funny.
Thank you.
I started in high school technically. But I didn't actually cosplay at conventions. I would cosplay like at events, or I would cosplay like with friends, like just doing we did like this was back in like the early 2000s or at 2000 where you just did not admit that stuff at all. It's so much more mainstream and so much more widely accepted, which is great. And I love that for especially younger generation cosplayers. But yeah, that's did not admit you were a cosplayer then. Now it's like now it's the cool thing to be to cosplay, and that's great. So yay.
So with the inquiries, people ask you to dress as specific characters. Is that what the inquiries ask
Oh,
you?
I do occasionally get that, but if I get inquiries, I usually get paid for that kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
they want me to go to a convention
Yeah.
and dress up as a character for their booth, or
Yeah.
like typically what'll happen is a gaming company will contact me, or they'll contact one of my friends who will contact me, and they'll say, hey, can you make this character and wear it at a booth, or do it
Yeah.
at a photo shoot that we're arranging, or they'll provide me the costume, and they'll give me information about the character. And you know typically though, I generally only cosplay characters that I love, because I'm from
Mhm.
an older generation. So way back when you were like cosplaying in the 2000s, you pretty much made all your costumes. It was very taboo to closet cosplay or get someone else to make your costume for you. So, like if you purchased a Halloween costume and zhuzhed it up to make it look like a certain character, that was very taboo back then. So, I kind of grew up in my cosplay youth under that notion, like, oh, don't do that. Like over the last 10 years, it's been especially okay to do that. And it's still a little weird for me to do that for myself. So I always try to like make it myself if I can. And I do most of the time, but yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, as far as like people inquiring you to make a costume for them, people will message me usually through my Etsy store, because I don't really take on just random costumes. Primarily stick to Legend of Zelda series because I'm a big, huge Zelda fan. Um, Plus my background in Zelda too, so I I know a lot. I know a good amount anyway. So I pretty much only take on Zelda commissions. I constantly get, inquiries about other characters. If it's something that's really really easy that I can knock out, I usually will take it on anyway, but yeah, like I'll get people who want me to make like a Genshin Impact character for them, but they want it like nice and really cool, and not the Amazon kind of costume, even though those are great. They're great costumes. Or they'll want me to make them something from like, Demon Slayer, something
Oh.
that could have like a lot of pattern involvement, or something that could be very armor heavy, like anyone who requests anything from like Warhammer from me, I'm just like, nope, I don't have time. You can't afford me. Sorry. That's a lot of detail, and
It's a lot
I
of
just
work.
can't do that. Like I can, but I that's a
commitment,
labor of passion there, and I'm exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, look, everybody, you can check out all of Jackie's stuff. She's got announcements coming. She's going to put up all of her costumes. You're going to love it, but only if you follow her on Instagram at Jacqueline Goehner or on Facebook, Happy Go Jackie. That's a fun one.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. You know what time it is.
Time for
once you follow Jackie, now it's time. You're right, Dr. Nor, for the terrible twos.
Bottom line.
All right. Final 2 questions of the show. Here they come. Question number 1. On a scale of 1 to 10, Dr. Nor, what would you give this first episode of Newhart?
I realized actually I never wrote down a number on a piece of paper, so I'm just going to have to make one up. I will give it a 7.2. So I enjoyed it. It was fun. I actually enjoyed it a fair bit, but it was not like something where I was laughing out loud and thinking, oh my God, that's the best. I can't wait to watch it again or something like that. Same episode again.
Everybody, you'll notice we've just caught a professor not doing his homework. I know. College professor. Jackie, what about you? Scale of 1 to 10?
I'd give it a 7.5. It was a solid C. I liked it. I enjoyed it for the very lightness of it, of what it is. I can't say it would be something that I would really want to watch over and over again. Like Golden Girls, I could watch that, like rewatch that over and over again, but it's also very nostalgic to me. This show, yeah, I wouldn't not recommend it, but okay.
Well worded.
Yeah. You wouldn't discourage people.
I wouldn't discourage people, no.
Well, everybody, I did do my homework, and I did it yesterday. I gave it a 6.5.
Wow.
Which I thought was actually higher than I thought I was going to give it, but you guys gave it even higher. So maybe I'm the weird one here. Maybe this is a much likable show than I realized. But yeah, it just, when it was over, I just found it to be very easy and pleasant. And again, you don't really have to pay attention. You could just kind of have it on. You could just kind of watch Bob make his little charming little faces, or the other people, trying. And it was easy. It was fine. It was cool. What about Dr. Nor? Question number 2, which is the important one. For the purposes of this podcast, we all had to watch the first episode of Newhart, but now that the podcast is over and we're free to move about the internet. I'm just trying to mess up Muhammad here.
Sync it up with me there.
Would you, now that the podcast is over and we're free to move about the internet, Dr. Nor, would you of your own volition watch the second episode?
I would. I'm not rushing to do it, but yeah, if it was on, it'd be fine. Maybe if I found it hard to imagine my seeking it out to watch it, but yeah, I mean, I could see it happening.
What about you, Jackie? Would you of your own volition watch the second?
So I like to binge shows. If this, I was actually tempted to just binge it yesterday. I'll just let it play, let it ride or whatever. But I had a lot of stuff I had to do, because anytime I'm making something, it's a great background show in my opinion. Because it doesn't really rely too much on physical humor. A lot of it's audible. So it's I can just listen to it and it'll be fine. This one I would watch again. I'd continue on to the next episode, but I would, Muhammad said, I wouldn't seek out the next episode like I would for, other shows like Demon Slayer or whatever. So
that's the second time you've mentioned Demon Slayer, and
I've been watching Demon Slayer lately. I watched another.
I don't even know what it is. I just keep imagining a metal band.
But I'll play it over and over again. So yeah.
Well, everybody,
binge with 8 seasons. It'll be a lot.
Not if you don't really care if you're paying attention. You just kind of put it on and you're getting work done.
That's true. Leave the room, come back, it's still going.
But look, everybody, I'll tell you, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but for me, it's a no. I would not watch the second. But I put in my notes no, but almost, because I found myself actually curious about it. Not that there were any mysteries or that there was any crazy revelations, But I was just kind of curious if there are going to be more characters to come in, a couple, recurring characters and how they would all interact with each other. I just kind of found myself curious about how the characters would develop and how those stories would go as time progressed. But curiosity was not enough. The curiosity killed the cat house. Does that work? Not really.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jackie. We'll cut that out. Anyway,
I'm so
that's
offended.
it for us this week. If you have an 80s sitcom you would like us to review, in the comments below, just type WTF, the 80s sitcom, and parenthetically tell us where we can stream it, like Paramount Plus, Hulu, Netflix, whatever. We'd really appreciate it, and we'll definitely maybe review it. That's it for us. What I'm trying to say is this podcast was charming AF.
That's what I was going to say. This podcast was, I was totally going to say charming too. This podcast was also easy.
This podcast, like Bob Newhart, is not safe for work.
I still didn't figure that out.
It's just opposite. I'm a liar.
I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight.
I'm a liar. Oh no! You're just gonna have dreams of Bob Newhart. I wish all the luck.
Doing not safe for work things.
Yes, exactly, and not safe for work stuff. And I'm gonna be like, I'm kind of okay with it. Dr. Knorr, please remind us all what Mr. Michael Kenyon Rosenberg always likes to say.
He does like to say, don't forget to be an organ donor, and don't forget to watch the first of things.
All right, everybody. Freeze frame like Bob Newhart breaking the fourth wall.
That shitty smile and